If you do a quick Google search, it won't take long to find out that Tokyo, Delhi, and Shanghai are the largest cities in the world. However, in the future, this may not be the case. As certain parts of the world go through massive growth, the largest cities in the world are going to change. Here are the top 15 projected largest cities by 2040. Number 15. Manila, the Philippines. The Philippines is easily one of Asia's fastest growing countries, and its capital city of Manila is no exception. After all, it already has a population of about 13.9 million people, with this number growing steadily each year due to the fact that the majority of the Philippines' major industries, such as shipbuilding, food and tobacco processing, and textile creation, are found there. These industries are also bolstered by the fact that English and Spanish are commonly spoken in the region and give it a leg up on many other Asian countries. Yet due to all of this industry and growth, some major problems have also arisen. Most notably, the water quality of the city's bay is absolutely atrocious, with many experts considering it biologically dead thanks to all of the pollution. As a result, we hope that Manila will be able to make its continued growth more sustainable in the near future. Number 14. Cairo, Egypt. Out of all of Africa's countries, few are quite as well known as Egypt. The home of the pharaohs and pyramids of years past, it's a magnet for tourism on the continent, and as such, it shouldn't come as a surprise that Cairo is one of the fastest growing cities. After all, its 20.9 million strong population is located in very close vicinity to both the Nile River and the Suez Canal, and thus get to benefit from the large amount of trade that passes through the city. It is also one of the financial and commercial capitals of northern Africa, and as a result, many of its citizens are employed in service sector jobs with relatively high wages. As a result, we expect Cairo to continue to attract more and more people for years to come. Number 13. Sao Paulo, Brazil. Brazil is easily one of South America's most economically advanced countries, and thus the 22 million person strong city of Sao Paulo certainly benefits from this. This is because Sao Paulo is a major center of trade in Brazil, as this port city not only exports a lot of raw materials such as sugar, soybeans, and coffee, but also a number of manufactured goods such as automobiles, computers, and pharmaceuticals. Therefore, as Brazil continues to grow and make use of its natural resources, we expect high numbers of Brazilians to continue to migrate to the city in search of work. Number 12. New York City, the United States. While cities in the United States are generally not growing as quickly as they are abroad, there is still a case to be made that New York City will become one of the world's largest. This is because New York City is one of the most influential population centers in the world and is home to the New York Stock Exchange, a number of large financial institutions, and is an economic hub for tech, tourism, real estate, and media. As a result, the increasing number of educated people in North America may find New York City to be an attractive place to live, as jobs continue to spring up as the city becomes more and more developed. Therefore, we wouldn't be surprised if this city's 8.3 million person population grows exponentially by 2040. Number 11. Chongqing, China. While Chongqing may not be one of China's most well-known cities, it's certainly one of its fastest growing. That's because despite not being located on the coast, it's a major center for industry, as it's become an important center for the production of processed food, chemicals, textiles, machinery, automobiles, and electronics. Thus, it goes without saying that its population of about 15.9 million people is largely employed in its factories, with numbers increasing exponentially due to its large size and relative distance from many of China's other cities. As a result, we'd expect Chongqing's population to continue to grow as the country becomes more and more industrialized. Number 10. Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of the Congo. As far as big cities go, few are quite as underestimated as Kinshasa. That's because despite being the third largest in Africa with a population of about 14.3 million, it's located in one of the continent's poorest countries, as the Democratic Republic of the Congo has an atrocious GDP per capita of $785 as of 2017. As a result, the majority of Kinshasa's French and Lingala-speaking population lives in abject poverty, as basic public services such as healthcare, education, and water supplies are chronically overextended. To make matters worse, the country has been ravaged by armed militias and terrorist groups in recent years, and thus travel to the city is highly discouraged by the governments of most Western countries. Yet despite all of these problems, Kinshasa is still a city on the rise. This is because the Democratic Republic of the Congo has one of the highest birth rates in the world, at an average of 5.9 births per woman. And since Kinshasa is a nation's capital, many of these births occur here. Kinshasa is also the country's most populous city and and as a result, there continues to be a large migration of primarily young workers from the nation's rural areas to the city. Despite Kinshasa clearly being unable to handle more people, it nonetheless is continuing to grow. Number 9. Dhaka, Bangladesh. Out of all the megacities out there, few are quite as problematic as Dhaka. That's because the capital city of Bangladesh is bursting at the seams, as it's far from able to accommodate the city's current population of about 21 million people and the thousands of more that flood in from the countryside every day. Why is this, you may ask? Well, one of the most profound problems is that Bangladesh's government invests very little of its money outside the capital city of Dhaka. As a result, about 35% of Bangladesh's GDP comes from Dhaka alone, which is crazy considering that just 12% of its people live in the city. Despite Dhaka's 23% unemployment rate, it still offers more jobs than the country's coastal cities, which are prone to heavy flooding and therefore extremely poor thanks to the rising sea levels across the Indian Ocean and the aforementioned lack of funding from the government. This situation has resulted in Dhaka being home to many low-skill industries, with cloth production, the export of rice, and services such as shopkeeping and rickshaw driving being the most prevalent in the capital. Despite its exponential growth, Dhaka continues to fold under its own weight and will likely continue to do so by 2040. We're constantly adding more people to the Top 5's production team to bring you all the best content. Be sure to subscribe with notifications on and hit the like button. Number 8. Karachi, Pakistan. While Pakistan may often be shadowed by the much larger state of India to the east, the 16 million strong city of Karachi has shown that it's certainly on the rise. However, it hasn't always been that way. That's because after various conflicts began taking over the country in the late 2000s and floods ravaged the city in 2010, Karachi quickly became known for its high crime rate and low quality of living. However, since then, authorities have been able to snuff out most of this crime, and as a result, a number of profitable industries such as cargo transport, shipbuilding, steel production, and automotive manufacturing have emerged. As a result, Karachi now accounts for about 25% of Pakistan's total tax revenues. Yet this doesn't mean that the city doesn't have its fair share of problems. In particular, it's known for being extremely dirty and polluted, with its sewers often overflowing and beaches absolutely unswimmable. This is compounded by the fact that it has no formal public transit and instead relies on taxis and rickshaw drivers, making its streets extremely congested. As a result, Karachi will have to put a lot of money into infrastructure if it's to grow both rapidly and sustainably. Number 7. Kolkata, India. As far as India's cities go, few are on a rise that is meteoric as Kolkata. That's because it's easily one of India's largest economic hubs, as with a population of almost 14.9 million people, it has a large labor force to fit into its many industries. In particular, Kolkata is known for its large jute processing, newsprint, coal, and textile industries, and this by far makes it the most industrious city in eastern India. This region has caused many people from the eastern half of India to migrate to the region. Yet despite having this influx of people, Kolkata still has a relatively high standard of living. This is because Kolkata is known for having a bustling public transit system, a large amount of government hospitals, relatively clean streets, and many high-ranking universities. As such, despite people having a number of problems in regards to poverty and pollution, Kolkata is consistently ranked as India's 5th most livable city, which is quite high considering that it's the country's 3rd largest city. As such, we hope that it's able to grow sustainably as time goes on. Number 6. Delhi, India. As the capital city of one of the world's fastest-growing countries, it shouldn't come as a surprise that Delhi made its way onto this list. That's because with about 30.3 million people, it comes in as the world's 2nd largest city, and we wouldn't be surprised if it maintains this title right through 2040. This is because it's home to some of the country's highest per capita incomes, and this largely is thanks to the fact that much of the city's production is not solely based in manufacturing. In particular, Delhi has a flourishing IT sector, with some of India's best IT companies setting up shop in the city due to its high number of skilled workers. Delhi also has a very strong tourism industry, as it's home to some of India's most well-known and historic sites, such as the Red Fort, India Gate, and Lotus Temple. As such, its economy is quite diverse when compared to many other cities on this list. Yet, like any large city, Delhi does have a host of problems. In particular, it has some of India's most congested roads, making transport around the city near impossible. To top this off, the area is also heavily polluted, as the nearby Yamuna River is clogged with sewage, while the city's air pollution has made breathing its air a health hazard. It still has a long way to go if it's to become more livable as it continues to grow. Number 5. Lagos, Nigeria. Among African cities, few are quite as large or as important as Lagos. That's because after the election of former Mobil oil executive Bola Tinubu as the governor of the Lagos state in 1999, both him and his successive administrations worked to harness the private sector to turn the city into the most productive and dynamic part of Nigeria's economy. As a result, Lagos makes over 75% of its revenues strictly from oil production, as due to it being a port city, much of these oil exports pass through it. However, manufacturing is also prominent in Lagos, thanks to its supply of cheap labor. And as such, food and beverage, pharmaceutical and automobile production are major employers in the city. In fact, even world-renowned companies such as Nissan, Volkswagen, and Toyota have set up shop there, thus making it a growing destination for international corporations. Overall, this makes Lagos relatively more diverse and significantly more wealthy than most other areas in the country. Yet despite the city's wealth, it's unfortunately unable to adequately distribute it to its nearly 14.4 million citizens. This is largely because rampant corruption ensures that very little money actually gets used to build up infrastructure, education, health services, and other basic supports. As a result, much of the city's population lives in slums, where rampant disease and crime have launched Lagos even further into chaos. Therefore, while Lagos may be a great place to do business and is a city on the rise economically, it is far from able to care for the growing numbers of citizens that migrate there in search for work. When you then further consider that the country has a staggeringly high birth rate of 5.4 children per woman, it shouldn't come as a surprise that Lagos will continue to grow as the years go by. Number 4. Mumbai, India. Out of all the world's cities, few are estimated to grow nearly as large as Mumbai. That's because at about 20.4 million inhabitants, this city is by far the largest in India, which is a country that by 2040 is projected to surpass China as the world's most populous nation. Now, a primary reason for Mumbai's large size is due to its geographic location. This is because it's located on India's west coast, and as such is a major shipping port for Western countries coming through the Suez Canal. This has ultimately made it India's financial, commercial, and entertainment capital, and as a result is home to 28 billionaires and about 46,000 millionaires, with the city's total wealth coming in at around $820 billion, while its GDP comes in at around $368 billion. Mumbai has seen a lot of migration of people coming from rural areas in order to work in one of the city's many industries. And while this may help the city economically, it has also led to relatively high real estate prices in the area. And as a result, the city has one of the largest slum populations in the world. In fact, about 55% of Mumbai's citizens are thought to live in its slums, and this has meant that the government's attempts at improving the welfare of these people has been largely inadequate. To make matters worse, many of Mumbai's slums are considered to be non-notified, meaning that they're not entitled to piped-in water, toilets, electricity, or public transportation. Therefore, if Mumbai is going to become a more livable city, it will have to find ways to better facilitate the vast numbers of people that are moving into its slums on a daily basis. Number 3. Mexico City, Mexico. Of all the countries on this list, few are as impressive as Mexico City. That's because the city in its present form was first founded all the way back in 1395 by the Aztec Emperor Tenochtitlan, and since then it's been the main center of commerce for all of Central America. This is evident not only due to this population of about 21.8 million people, but also due to the fact that its GDP of $390 billion makes it the 8th richest city in the world and the richest in all of Latin America. This can primarily be attributed to its past participation in NAFTA and its current participation in the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, which give it a privileged status in the Americas as an area open to free trade and thus enriched by industries such as automobile manufacturing, steel and iron production, and plastics making. Best of all, due to it being a historic city with many notable landmarks and sites, it's also able to generate a solid amount of tourist revenue that's not shared by some of the poorer cities on this list. However, despite these positives, Mexico City also faces a number of problems. One of the main problems are the city's many slums or barrios, which have become home to more and more people over the years. There is also heavy pollution thanks to the city's industries, which threaten to endanger the quality of life of many inhabitants. Yet perhaps worst of all is the fact that Mexico City's public transit system is extremely inadequate, making it difficult for workers to commute from the barrios to their places of work. Despite its wealth, Mexico City still has a long way to go until it will be able to support its population. Number 2. Tokyo, Japan. Out of all the cities on this list, you may find the addition of Tokyo as the most surprising. That's because despite being the world's largest city with a population of about 37.4 million, it's located in a country that has a birth rate so atrocious that at 1.4 children per woman, it's in fact negative. Tokyo has nonetheless been an exception due to the fact that it continues to grow, despite the fact that most of Japan's cities are entering periods of decline. This is largely because Tokyo is Japan's social and economic hub, as it's home to many highly esteemed entertainment facilities, universities, and businesses. After all, Japanese workers are known to be some of the most productive and hardworking in the world. And as such, lots of companies like to set up shop there in order to make some serious profits. Tokyo is also attractive due to its modernity, as it's not only an extremely high-tech city, but also home to one of the world's most precise and well-functioning public transit systems. As a result, it should come as no surprise that Japanese citizens and foreigners alike flock to the city due to its economic opportunities, social scene, and high quality of life. As a result, the widespread poverty found in many of the world's other large cities is not felt quite as acutely in Tokyo. However, this doesn't mean that overpopulation has not become a problem, as the cities become so expensive to live that many people live in shared apartments, where their personal space consists of just a few square meters. This has made the quality of living rather poor for Japan's lower-skilled workers, and as a result, rates of poverty have been increasing over the years. However, so long as Tokyo continues to look into accommodating the needs of all socioeconomic classes, we wouldn't be surprised if Tokyo remains as one of the world's largest and most livable cities in 2040. Number 1. Shanghai, China. China has been on an aggressive campaign to surpass the United States in terms of global economic power. And while this takeover may still be years in the making, Shanghai is most certainly benefiting from it. That's because its location at the mouth of the Yangtze River has made it a prime destination for commerce, and as a result, the port of Shanghai has become the world's largest container port. In fact, largely thanks to its transport operations and manufacturing, the city boasts a GDP of about $539 billion, and this has allowed the approximate 27 million people that live in the city to enjoy an average disposable income of almost $10,000, which makes its citizens, by and large, some of the wealthiest in the country. To top this off, the future looks even brighter for the city. That's because most of the Asian, African, and European trade routes being made via China's Belt Road Initiative will funnel through Shanghai, and this will attract even more migrants to the city who are in search of more economic opportunity. Yet that's not to say that Shanghai doesn't have some massive problems. One of the most pressing is its increase in slums, which continue to prop up in order to support those that can't afford to pay the ridiculously high rents of apartments across the city. Shanghai is also known to be heavily polluted, and as a result, clouds of smog often envelop the city streets. Yet perhaps the worst factor of all is that the Chinese government plays such a large role in day-to-day life. As a result, freedoms of speech, movement, and expression are systematically suppressed. Therefore, while Shanghai may be growing quickly, the city may see less and less voluntary foreign involvement unless the country decides to get its act together. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.